Now to Kenya, where the unpopular finance bill has passed a significant hurdle on its way to becoming law after Parliament voted it through on its second reading. The proposed changes would mean tax increases for lots of people who are already struggling with the cost of living. Thousands of young people have taken to the streets to oppose it.
A new generation of Kenyans occupy the streets of the capital Nairobi as anger mounts over a controversial finance bill. Anti-riot police used water cannon and tear gas in an attempt to disperse protesters. The government continues to push the budget through Parliament, but they were forced to drop some of the most contentious elements, including a 16% tax on bread and an annual tax on car ownership. Despite government concessions, the swell of opposition that started on TikTok has spread to streets across the country.
I'm out today because I think this government has decided that they own this country. They don't own this country. We actually own Kenya. And I think that's what they're forgetting. So we are just here to remind them that Kenya belongs to all of us.
We want to stand out for ourselves. We as the Gen Z, we want to determine how our future will be ruled by we ourselves, the Gen Z. We are not here ready to be manipulated by the so-called President of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. William Samoei Ruto.
And there are calls for the president to resign.
Ruto must go. Ruto must go. Ruto must go. Ruto must go. Ruto go.
Lawmakers passed the bill's second reading on Thursday. The legislation is now almost certain to become law, but protesters say they won't back down.
Well, I asked our correspondent in Nairobi, Felix Maringa, why lawmakers had decided to advance the bill despite the outcry.
So some of the members of parliament who were in support of the bill have said that the government needs money and the government needs a working budget, and that's why they had to pass the budget. Then, speaking during the day, President William Ruto asked members of parliament affiliated to the ruling party to expedite the process and pass the bill so that he can assent to it for it to become law. Then, thirdly, members of parliament have shown clearly that they do not listen to their core constituents who voted them in. So it will be an interesting tussle to see what happens, because people told their members of parliament who are their elected representatives not to vote, but they've gone ahead to vote. So it will be a good tussle to see what happens in the coming days.
And explain to us why young people are particularly angry about these changes.
Young people are angry at the high cost of living. The cost of living, they say, has been blowing through the roof, and they say it's become unbearable. Majority of the young people are unemployed, and so many of them are learned and unemployed, and they feel that by the government continuing to tax them even more, even the basic items are becoming too expensive. Then the government has also proposed eco levy on imported finished products. Some of the products like sanitary towels and diapers, and people feel that this should be a no-go zone for the government. Lastly, young people are also tired because they feel there's been a lot of runaway corruption by the government, and they're saying that instead of the government continuing to tax them more, they need to first deal with the runaway corruption before even thinking about taxing Kenyans even more.
OK, so this law has passed 2 readings. What happens next, and what happens to the protests?
So what happens next is that there is one more reading that is set to happen early next week, that is on Tuesday. Then after that, the law will be assented by the president and it will now become an act. So it will take effect. Ideally, the government year in Kenya ends on 30th June and the other one begins almost immediately on 1st of July. So that is what will happen. But for the protesters, they say that because they've heard that the government doesn't seem to listen to them, doesn't seem to listen to their pleas. The protesters have vowed to remain on the streets. Some of them, in fact, earlier today were saying Ruto must go, saying that now, if it will get to that particular point, then they will not vote for the president again come 2027. Some of the members of parliament who voted yes to the bill have also been put on notice. They are voters saying that come 2027, they will meet at the ballot. And people online have actually started sharing the names and phone numbers of the members of parliament who voted yes to the bill, and they're saying that now it will be the masses versus the elected representatives. So it will be interesting to see how the next couple of days pan out and whether the protesters will remain on the streets as they have promised today.
Okay, thanks, Felix. Felix Moringa in Nairobi.